Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's presentation for the xLights GEMS series. Tonight we have Dan Kulp from Kulp Controllers to do a Q&A session on Kulp Controllers. So raise your hand at the bottom of the screen and pop your question in chat, or if no one's talking, holler it out. Unmute and holler out your question.
So, I'll just, while I'm waiting for people, I can start talking a little bit about stuff. Not a problem. I can fill up time. Um, as you guys know, I'm Dan Culp. I've been working on xLights and FPP for many years. I think it's like this is my 13th year or something like that, 14th year, somewhere around there. Long time. Obviously done a lot of work in xLights, a lot of work in FPP, and then uh, basically created a whole line of controllers based on FPP to run pixels and stuff. Um, so a little bit about this year. Well, the thing that excited me the most about what was happening towards the end of last year, one of the nice things about what I do with the Beagles is I have a really good working relationship with the Beagle board folks, the people that actually produce the Beagle bones. And they sent me some prototypes back the end of November of last year of the new Pocket Beagle. And I was all excited about it. Because the last year all the existing Pocket Beagle ones went out of stock, and Octavo, the chip maker, jacked the price way up, so it didn't make sense to produce anymore, and stuff. So having a new Pocket Beagle based on more modern technologies and stuff was at a reasonable price point, was really exciting to me. So I spent a lot of time in December, like once everybody got their shows up and running, and there was a lot like really wasn't a lot of stuff going on in xLights and FPP because the shows were running and nobody wanted to touch anything. I was able to play around with the new Pocket Beagles, and so a lot of my work this year has been geared right around the new Pocket Beagle and enhancing FPP and enhancing what you can do with controllers and stuff like that, all around the new Pocket Beagle. So, do you have any questions to start off with yet? Or
Yeah, Jack, you want to know what are the new controller models?
okay.
Also, Matt, if you have a question related to this, please type it in the chat window.
So I'm going to just do a quick share. Like I said, most of you probably have even seen some of these. So for those of you guys that don't know what a Pocket Beagle or Pocket Beagle 2 is, everybody see the slides fine?
Yes.
Okay, good. Uh, I haven't used Zoom for a while, so I had to do the whole update and security and all that stuff. So I just want to make sure it's working. Um, Downside of not using these things for a while. So anyway, the Pocket Beagle 2, as I said, it was kind of designed to replace the Pocket Beagle 1 when they kind of went out of stock. The really awesome thing to me is it's using the newer TI AM62X chips. If you buy one today, it's a 6254, which is a quad core processor running at 1.4 gigahertz. Much better than the single core BeagleBone Blacks and the old Pocket Beagle 1. So a lot quicker for doing things, stuff like that. It's mostly pin compatible with Pocket Beagle 1, so I was able to take all of my existing Pocket Beagle 1 cape designs, and you can pretty much plug the new Pocket Beagle on, and with software updates and changes and all that stuff, they work. So that the pins are there, and controllable and all that stuff. So it basically made it a software porting effort, not really any changes to hardware required. That said, there's a lot of new stuff that's available on there that new hardware is able to take advantage of. So my new designs this year are taking advantage of some of that stuff, and I can cover some of that later. Um, the headers are pre-attached. Where the original Pocket Beagle, you had to sit there and solder them on. I used to pay my kids a couple bucks each to have them solder the headers on and stuff because they took a while, and found other ways to get them on. It was really annoying. The fact that they come pre-attached now is really awesome. This is the interesting one. Is if you take a look, there's this empty chip right here. It was actually designed to have an EMCC on it, but then to meet the price point that they wanted it to be under $30. They couldn't do that with an EMCC, so they took the EMCC the eMMC off for the initial version. Now that said, I'm not sure exactly how much I'm allowed to say, but I will say that in probably a couple months there will probably possibly be a version of the Pocket Beagle 2 that has that populated. Um, so that will be hopefully coming soon. That said, there will be some changes required in FPP for that because FPP kind of assumes that if it detects it's running on a Pocket Beagle that there is no eMCC, so I need to update some stuff there to be able to flash the eMCC on. It shouldn't be a lot of work, but there are some assumptions there. And that's the big thing with porting to the FPP to some of this new hardware is uh, going through and possibly invalidating some of the assumptions that we made years ago based on the hardware that was available at that point.
And
The other major
and
things I don't like about
and
it,
Dan, for those who don't know, the EMC, what's it used for?
it's basically it's storage. So like most of the time we tell everybody to use an SD card. For some reason, like a lot of people aren't comfortable with SD cards. So having an eMCC, from what they're telling me, there's a quite possibility that there will be a 64 gig eMMC on it. So instead of using the SD card for storage, you can use the eMMC. Um, I don't, I, I've never really had any issues with reliability of SD cards if you get a good quality SD card. But some people have issues with that. That said, the eMMC is also likely going to be a little bit faster than the SD cards. That said, the SD card on the Pocket Beagle 2 is blazingly fast compared to even the Pi 5 and the Pi 4. It's over twice the speed of the Pi 4's SD card slot. So the speed wise is you're still well off with the SD cards in the Pocket Beagle 2. So hey, so going forward, like I said, the only major thing I don't like about the Pocket Beagle 2 is the SD card location. It kind of sucks. So I do have these uh, SD card extender things, which brings it out to be a little bit more convenient. And it's also only got the same 512 megabyte memory that the Beagle and Blacks have, which is not a problem for FPP. Like it boots fat, like FPP doesn't use much memory, so it boots fine, stuff like that. The only time it's really a problem is if you're a developer and trying to compile on it. The 64-bit compiles with only 512 meg of memory is not really ideal, and it starts swapping and stuff and gets a little bit slow. But those are my complaints. Nothing major. So just to kind of uh, put them in a chart to see how it kind of compares, like the Beagle One Blacks and the Beagle Pocket Beagle ones that I've been using for years, as opposed to the Pocket Beagle 2. And I threw a Pi 3B Plus in here because that's really the nearest comparison to the Pocket Beagle 2. Because the Pocket Beagle 2 uses the same A53 cores that the Pi 3B Plus does. Uh, Very close to same speed, same number of cores. But there's a bunch of other stuff that the Pocket Beagle 2 has that the Pi 3B Plus doesn't. And like I said, the SD card is awesome. Lots of GPIOs, PRU pins, all kinds of fun stuff to use. So simple comparison. So like I said, I got the prototypes back in November. The A zeros were released in January. The A ones were released in, I want to say like April-ish type time frame. Anything you get now is an A1. So it's the quad core. Um, and very exciting to me. And I was able to play a lot with that and started, and it allowed me to really think about, okay, what does that mean for my controllers going forward? Not just, and obviously I've used the Beagle and Blacks and the Pocket Beagle ones for years, but this gave me an opportunity to kind of really think what I want to do with my controllers and kind of create a commonality based on the Pocket Beagle 2. So that's kind of what I've been working on this year. So the first two that were released earlier was the new Pocket Scroller V3. Using the four cores on the new Pocket Beagle, we can drive a lot more panels. The PRUs are also 250 megahertz rather than 200 megahertz on the old Beagles, so it can drive more panels faster. and the way it drives the pins is also a lot more precise, which allows me to have better control, so I can drive different types of panels, like some of the PWM panels and things like that. So that was one of the big problems that we've had with the Octo scroller, the old Pocket scroller, was that the single core Beagle really got so bogged down that even though you could drive 30 some panel like P5 panels, like the single core just couldn't keep up with that at all. And so really the limit was more around 18 to 20 P5 panels maybe. And so using the extra cores on the Pocket Beagle 2, we were able to push that out more to around 40 P5 panels, maybe more if you drop the color depth and depending on whether they're outdoor panels and indoor panels and all that stuff. But definitely significant, like at least double the number of panels, just based on the extra processing power. The other thing that I was able to do, we put a 4-port USB hub on there, which gives you 3 USB ports that are powered. So they're wired as like a powered hub. So you can use them to charge things, or if you have a little 5-volt switch or something like that that you want in your case, you can do that, or um, things like, or if you want to use your sound blaster on there, it can provide enough power for the sound blaster, things like that. And then the fourth port is wired into a gigabit Ethernet. So it is a USB 2. So even though it's gigabit Ethernet, you're only going to get about 250 to 300 megabits per second, but that's still significantly faster than you on the 100 megabit that I think like every other controller has. So uploading sequences and stuff is significantly quicker. Um, OLED, RTC, some GPIO pins for people to do triggers and things like that. So this was the first one that I was working on designing, and it's out and available. Very happy about that because it definitely fixes some of the issues I had with the Octo and Pocket Scroller, just based on the sheer number of panels and things like that. And the second thing that was designing was obviously a pixel controller. And the goal here was basically the first one was I wanted to call it like the kitchen sink. So it's like the everything. And then, so I guess basically the 32 max. So it's got basically everything. And then there are tiers below it that kind of pull things off to make price points and things like that. So this is the 32 max. So again, Pocket Beagle would be here. There's a fan header for those that need a fan to cool things. It's a PWM. It's a 5-volt 4-pin PWM fan header. A lot of words there. So you can get like a 5-volt PWM fan, plug it in there, and there are actually temperature points that'll like high, medium, low. That'll spin them up as needed and things like that. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Again, the 3-port hub, there is audio on here. So the PCM 5102A audio DAC that I've used on my boards forever is there. There is a socket here for the little FM transmitter, the gigabit Ethernet, 2 DMX ports. I'll talk a little bit about those in a second. And then again, the push buttons and GPIOs and RTC and OLED and all the other fun stuff. This being the max, it is using eFuses, so 6 amp, 24 volt eFuses across the 32 local ports. Each group of 4 has its own power terminal. Again, if you have 6 amps for 4 ports, that's 24 amps, which is very safe to go through. These are rated for 32 amps, so you're safe. If we were going with 8 ports, that would have been way too much power to put through a 30 amp screw terminal. So safety first type thing. And then there's another 32 ports available via DMX, and these are bidirectional, so you can get the responses back from like the Falcon V5 differential receivers and control their eFuses and query their pixel counts and all that stuff and things like that. So again, pretty much everything uh, there. So that's the max, and those were the first 2 controllers that I created for the year. The goal was then to have like the 16-point version would look pretty much the same, like basically have a common top, and then we'll start removing things. So the 16 port would basically have the bottom 16 ports kind of cut off, and there would be a mounting hole right about here. And then this is the Mac, so the Pro version would replace the eFuses with blade fuses, and then there will be just a basic version that would remove some of the differential ports, remove two of the USB ports, remove the audio, things like that. So basically to get some cost reductions depending on what features and stuff you need. So that's been my goal for the year, is to kind of get these things out. It's going slow. We definitely Trump's tariffs caused a lot of issues with planning and like trying to get things ordered and then not ordered and then just trying to get things to be shipped within the low tariff points and all that stuff to try and save some money. And it's been annoying. But it is what it like. It's not something I have any control over, so I can just kind of do what I can do and hope for the best. But we'll get there eventually. So eventually, again, the goal is to have 32 Max Pro base, 16 Max Pro base. Probably do something with the eights. I'm not sure what the eights would look like yet, because most likely I'll try to cut it around here, and maybe I don't know yet. I'm still working, trying to figure out what the eights will look like because just cutting everything off this is still kind of a big board up here, so I don't know yet. Um, so anyway, those are what I'm designing for this year. Everything's pretty much Pocket Beagle 2 based, and that's where I'm kind of going forward for the future. So I'm gonna stop sharing because I
Yeah.
want this is supposed to be Q&A, so people need to start asking questions.
Yeah.
So
Somebody put a question in, says, on the Macs, why move to eFuses? Is there a positive and a negative side to using eFuses over blades?
yeah, I really love eFuses. They uh, provide a lot of functionality that you don't get with the blade fuses. You can uh, for example, like one, you as soon as if a fuse trips, you'll get a notification right in FPP saying port 12 eFuse tripped, and if you're using FPPmon, you'll get it pushed right to your phone, and all of a sudden you get an alert on your watch and your phone and your iPad and your computer and everything that says port whatever tripped, and you kind of know immediately, and you know to go and investigate it. The other thing really like about them is when the show shuts down for the night, you can leave the controllers on, but all the ports shut off, so there's no power to the pixels or anything like that. So you can also do pixel counting, and you can plug in your string and see, okay, turn them all white and see exactly how many amps are being drawn. If you want to know if your power supply is going to be big enough when you go all white, you can actually kind of measure what the string is going to do and stuff like that. So I like the eFuses, and the big problem with them is they're super expensive. The 24 volt 6 amp eFuses that I'm using on the 32 Max, they're about $2 each to get them in quantity. And then you throw the Trump's 55% tariff tax is on them to then import them in the United States. That adds another dollar to them. So I mean, it really to do a 32 port controller with eFuses is really really expensive. And which is why the 32 Max is really expensive. And why the Pro levels are going to basically be the exact same thing, just using blade fuses instead, just because cost effective. It's hard to have a cost effective controller when you're using eFuses. And you could save a little bit of money by going only to 18 volts and 5 amps, which like I did for the K8, the K8 PB and the K8 Pi, I think are both the 18 volts. But still, they're significantly more expensive than blade fuses, which are I mean blade fuses are I don't know like they're like 10 cents a piece for the socket and the fuse and the labor to have them stick the fuse in this like it's dirt cheap. So that's again, I like the eFuses, but they're just you can't have a cost effective or inexpensive controller using eFuses. So other questions we have.
Uh, he also asks, and this is a little off the top, but he says, when should you use a controller versus a receiver? I don't know if we want to get into
That's a good
that.
question. To some extent, it's really a personal preference matter. I don't use receivers at all, because I really can't stand Cat 5 cable. I don't have any Cat 5 cables in my show other than from my main switch to my master. Um, I, I I can't deal with Cat 5, so I don't use any receivers. Other people go the exact opposite way. They'll get a K64 or K128 and then run Cat 5 everywhere and use receivers so they can have one controller that then controls like a lot of stuff. So it's really up to what's your preference. Like I said, I know what works for me, but what works for me may not work best for you or like that. And so I tend to try to stay away from those recommendations because, like I said, I can tell you that I hate Cat 5. It comes from a combination of rabbits and squirrels that like to eat Cat 5 around here. Me being too colorblind to be able to repair Cat 5 cables. I spend so much time trying to get the little twisty things to be in the right order. Like I just can't do it. So I just kind of gave up and went Wi-Fi for everything because Cat 5 sucks.
Exactly. I agree. I do the same thing.
Are e-fuses safer? That's uh, in a lot of ways, yes. One of the downsides of the e-fuses is they trip so fast. Like a blade fuse, for those you don't know, they're rated for like 5 amps. But really that means indefinitely for 5 amps. But if you can probably put 6 amps, 7 amps, 8 amps through it for a second or two, before they will heat enough to actually trip. Um, E-fuses, on the other hand, if it's rated for 6 amp, when you hit 6.01 amps, it will trip immediately within milliseconds. So they behave a little bit different. So they will trip a lot faster. But that's good thing and bad thing. There are certain floodlights that when they first like power up and stuff, they have like giant capacitors in there and they just suck all the like as much power as they can over the wire and it'll trip them immediately. So we had to add some like retry things and stuff into FPP to handle some of that. But for the most part, from a safety standpoint, they're somewhat safer because they will trip very, very fast and they will guarantee you're not going to go over 6 amps um, for more than about a millisecond or two, whereas the blade fuses allow it to be longer. But again, fuses blade fuses are cheap. Oh, what else do we have?
Uh, will FPP7 still, xLights still supporting FPP7? Or when
I
is that
think
going to come
right
out?
now it will I think you have to have all of the fixes on the 7.5 branch. So 7.1 to 7.4, no. 7.5 as it was released, no. But if you're on 7.5 and all of the fixes on that branch, I think it'll work. Because we did remove a bunch of the code that was for uploading sequences and stuff from the old APIs, but we did port some of the new APIs back onto that 7.5 branch. So I think you need to have 7.5 and all of the fixes that go with it. Not positive though. It's not something that's being tested or encouraged, and if you find a bug in it, you're kind of on your own. It really won't be fixed.
Uh, yeah. So Mark asks, he's in New Zealand, and they want to know how can they get Culp controllers? And we talked about this the other night.
It's a good question too. I do ship just about everywhere in the world. I think the only places I can't ship to are Belarus, Russia. There's like 3 countries that I can't ship to. If people try, I've had actually people try to purchase stuff, and I go to make labels, and everybody's like, "No, you can't do that," and it's kind of annoying. But I do ship them to New Zealand. It's not cheap. Shipping to New Zealand, Australia, stuff like that is not cheap. I did have USPS for a while. USPS did shut down shipments to Australia and New Zealand for a while. I haven't checked to see if they redid that or not to re-enable that. USPS is cheaper, but it takes like 4 to 5 weeks to ship there. Which is one of the reasons why I disabled it. Whereas UPS will ship there in like 4 or 5 days. It's really quick. I would love to have a reseller on that side of the world as well as one in Europe for some of the stuff. Just if I can do one big shipment and then have it go out from there. It's just nobody's really approached me, and I'm not exactly sure who. Like, I don't follow those spaces or those countries to know, okay, where are people purchasing things and who would make sense. So if somebody runs a shop in one of those like those areas, let me like point them my way, and I could probably work something out. Um, but
So next is long-term durability of an e-fuse.
uh, e-fuses are actually much better from a reliability standpoint than just about anything else because there's nothing to wear out. There's like nothing that like this really comes up with the difference between the polyfuses that some of the other controllers are using. The polyfuses do wear out. I mean, as they because basically what's happening is you're kind of like melting some internal stuff and there's a phase change inside there, and over time they will wear out. Blade fuses obviously are a one-time use thing. They burn and they are done, and you have to replace them. E-fuses have nothing internal at all to wear out. I mean, it's basically a single resistor that's kind of go and it's just monitoring the voltage on either side of the resistor. And when that gets to that voltage drop goes too much, it then basically turns off a MOSFET type thing. Um, so there's nothing really to wear out. It's a fully electronic type thing. So not worried at all about that. So.
Yeah. Rob asked, when you do code freeze, I'm assuming, stop updating for the year. What do you do? Do you,
Oh,
update
I
all
don't.
the
I my entire show, I have about five or six controllers that are running 24/7. They don't have any like all year. Mostly because I'm testing things and so they don't have any lights installed. Like when I take my lights down, I leave my controllers out there. So if you actually pull up in front of my house and kind of like poke around behind the bushes and stuff like that, you'll see all my controllers are still out there. Um, because I use them for testing and development throughout the year. And even when my show is running in October and December, about no, Alex, not free controllers. Um, uh, basically, every 2 or 3 days, I'm hitting the update button from like, the multi-sync page and updating all of them to whatever the latest thing. Like my show is really the test bed for all of your guys' shows. They run all of my controllers run master branch all year. I when we do a release of like 9.1 or whatever, I will do the FPPOS update on a bunch of them to make sure that works. But then I immediately flip them back to master branch, and they become test points. So for me, it's running state of the art stuff every day, every night.
Yeah.
So.
Back to the question about overseas purchasing. Is there a way to do it like direct so it doesn't have to come to the US first? Because then it would be a lot cheaper if there was a way to ship it, from the.
Um, it's something I would have to talk to my manufacturer about, like splitting, because like obviously when I get a quote, they're quoting me the shipping to the US and I'd have to talk to them saying, okay, ship 50 of them here and the rest of them to there. And I did think about this because like a good chunk of them go down to wired watts and it would be easier if I just shipped some of them directly to wired watts rather than shipping to me. But then there's tariff issues that Ken would have to deal with, and all. It was just ended up being easier and almost the same price just to have it shipped to me, and then I get decent UPS rates to ship down to him. So I don't know. I've never talked to that about that with my supplier. That said, the other part of that is the EEPROMs on them. My manufacturer only flashes some of them, and none of my new boards because I've been developing the EPROMs for them as they've been coming in. Um, I would have to send hardware and instructions and stuff to whoever gets those boards and teach them basically how to flash all the EPROMs on all the boards. So it would extra
That was
steps.
a that was a issue I found. I bought two K8 PBs with new PB2s,
Yeah,
and they weren't working right till I figured out I had to flash the PB2 EEPROM on the other
yeah,
K8.
yep.
What's next? Does anyone else test the changes you're doing with FPP?
Well,
You
yeah. I mean, FPP is awesome. The FPP team. compared to like even compared to xLights, I mean the FPP team is much broader as far as skill sets and what they bring to the table. So there are people like Pat and just like Pat's got an entire lab of like he calls it his everything lab, because he's pretty much got everything. And if you actually mention something on the Slack channel, like with a Amazon link, usually by the time you hit enter, he's got it ordered for his lab. So he does a lot of testing on pretty much everything. But it's not just Pat. I mean Greg does a lot of testing and like Stuart and even like Alex and like everybody like we have a nice Slack like we have a Slack channel or a set of Slack channels there that the developers and I don't say the developers but the entire team is on, and like whenever you push a change and like I'll know fairly soon that I broke something because somebody will complain about it on the Slack channels. And so yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on there. Again, a lot of us that are FPP on the FPP team, and it's not just developers. And again, like Pat doesn't develop code, and like Greg does some, and Daryl does some, but they also do a lot of testing and stuff, and um, there's all kinds of stuff going on, and they do a good job of finding things and fixing things and updating docs I mean the FPP manual is awesome for anybody that's like new to FPP. The manual is really well done. So Rick has done a great job of driving that. And again, while he updates the manual, like whenever we do a new version, he's going through all the screenshots and making sure like all of the new fields and checkboxes are documented and he'll say, okay, there's this new checkbox. A, what does it do? And B, it's not doing what I thought it would do. So um, and we'll work things out like that. So yeah, there's a good team of not just developers working on there, but actually people testing it and giving it, pushing it and stuff, which is great.
Okay. The other one was like on the K16AB or Pro, should you
Mhm.
populate all four power legs, individual supplies, or can you use two on one power supply or four on another?
Ooh, good question. It depends on how much you're going to max things out. And again, with the max having the e-fuses where you can actually figure out the amperage and stuff, you could actually hook up your strings and determine how much current they're being drawn and size things appropriately. One of the things I personally suggest and what I do is I use the 600 watt power supplies, so not the 350 watts, because 600 watts at 12 volts is 50 amps, which works perfectly for two legs if you're going to max everything out, because with the 6 amp fuses, two of those is 24 each or 48 amps total. So you could actually, using the 600 watts, you could max everything out by putting one 600 watt power supply for two screw terminals. Now that said, that's if you're actually going to be pushing 6 amps per port as part of your show. I don't do that. Like I put a max of like 100 and I think the longest string I have on any port is like 150 pixels or 160 pixels. So I'm not pushing anywhere as close to that for majority of my shows. So you could use the same power supply for three or four if you wanted. But again, measure, be safe. It's up to you. The way it's designed is to prevent people from like having one screw terminal for 8 ports, which would be 48 amps, into one screw terminal that only is rated for 32, which would be a meltdown waiting to happen. Again, just you can do that. Just run extra cables right back to the power supply. Don't try to jumper from one to the other. Just run them all the way back to the power supply.
Yeah.
Would be my suggestion.
So next one is what's testing process on your controllers? Are all ports tested or all boards before sent out to customers? Do they go through a testing phase?
Oh God, no. That would take forever. Yeah. There's the manufacturer does some level of QA stuff. They'll make sure, and I'm actually disappointed with the manufacturer with the case with the base level boards right now, the K16 base level, because they actually stuck a QA sticker on the front of every board from when they've done their QA stuff, which annoys me because like if they stick it on the back, nobody sees it, but sticking it on the front kind of annoys me. I have severe OCD when around comes to those things, but they do that. I randomly test boards, so I don't know, like every 10th board or whatever that I ship out, I will boot up and run basic tests on a couple of ports, whatever, to make sure everything's working, make sure the prom's there, stuff like that. That said, the with the newer boards, as part of flashing the EEPROM, it does do a lot of testing to make sure that all the devices that are supposed to be on the I2C bus are there. They all respond properly, and stuff like that. So there's a lot of testing along the I2C bus, because that's basically where we've had a lot historically, there's been a lot of issues with like the OLED taking out the I2C bus, or the RTC dying, or not working properly, or things like that, or the GPIO expanders not responding correctly. Like that's now part of the flashing process, is it checks all those things too. So, and that's got to be done for every single board. So you've got to flash the. That said, the new boards actually don't have an EEPROM on them. It's faked. So the flashing process is a lot more involved, which is why we're able to do all this testing as part of that process.
And the next one is, do you recommend fusing the power supply between a board and power supply?
I don't. I figure the ports are all fused, so I guess it would help prevent if like you drop a screwdriver onto your board and bridge things or something like that. But I don't know. It's not something I've really spent. Uh, I'm again that people are gonna have different philosophies on that. I go with what's easier.
Yeah. Someone's asking a question about future of FPP, but do you see that one there? Jeff Garvis, future of FPP,
Okay, yeah. But one of them is active.
like a backup
He wants like
FPP would kick
high
in.
availability FPP, like
Yeah,
what's his face? Like hot, right? So
it
like
maybe. Yeah, I mean, it's not something I've. It's definitely not going to happen this year. We're too late for that. I don't know. I'd have to think about even how that would be detected and do that without causing problems.
When
Probably
is
something
the,
that
yeah,
can add to the GitHub stuff for
GitHub
to
request?
talk about. Like the other nice thing about FPP developer team is we do get together like once or twice a year, sometimes more, on Zoom for a few hours, and we'll go through all the GitHub issues and kind of plan we're gonna be working on for the year, and stuff. And so something like a suggestion like that would be something that we would probably talk about in the first meeting, which would be like the end of January or beginning of February, to see if it's something that would be interesting to pick up for the year. That's a huge set of changes, so it's not something that it's way too late to be dealing with stuff like that this year. So
Yeah, but if you do have a question like that, feel free to put it in the FPP GitHub as
yeah,
an issue request, and this way it gets tracked.
yeah.
Uh, from Facebook Day, any limits and recommendation on running CL on a K16 with FPP9 that can drive both pixels and panels?
What's
What's
CL?
CL? Yeah. Oh, color light?
power lights.
Oh, color
Color
lights.
light.
Okay.
Is it, yeah, can you
Well, the
drive it?
K16 AB, which is the single core Beagle Black, I would strongly not recommend it. The single core, and you're talking a 32-bit core from 14 years ago. It's only one of them running at 1 GHz, so there's just not enough horsepower there to handle that. Uh, from the newer K16s that are based on the Pocket Beagle 2, I'd have no problems dealing with that. The pushing the pixels out doesn't take a whole lot of CPU, and with being having 4 cores, there's plenty of processor there to be able to handle the color lights as well. There's also the gigabit Ethernet on board already, so that's available. So yeah, the newer K16s, yes. The older K16s, I would definitely like. any of the older Beagle Black stuff, doing anything along with color lights would be hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Next is when will the K16 Max be released? When will that be available?
Uh, that one is the lower priority of the seven. Like if for a variety of reasons. One of the things, like being a small vendor, I can't like order a bunch of boards. Like ordering a batch of boards costs thousands and thousands of dollars, and I can't. I don't have the finances to do that outlay immediately. So I kind of have to do this piecemeal. So obviously the 32 Max was first. The 16 Pro and Basic were next. I should have the 32 Pro and 32 Basic probably in a couple weeks. Um, Not sure, like they're being manufactured and hopefully being shipped to me soon. So it's just I can't do everything at once. So the question is, what do I have already that fills that stuff. So like the K16AB is that I currently sell is pretty much the equivalent to the 16 Max, other than Beagle and Black versus Pocket Beagle. Like feature wise, they're pretty much the same. So it's the 16 Max was a lower priority because I already have the 16AB already here. Whereas like I didn't have an eFuse version of the 32, which is why that was the very first one. People kept asking, okay, when are you gonna have eFuses for the 32? And so that's and I had nothing there, so which is why I had to get that one out first. So it just depends on uh, what I have in stock and how much money I have to be able to order stuff and how fast things sell to generate more money to order the next batch of stuff, I guess. So yeah.
Cool. Next one's any issue running different versions of FPP between controllers?
Usually no. Because like the multi-sync protocol really hasn't changed. FPP Connect does a good job of figuring out what to upload to everything depending on the versions and stuff like that. Um, there are little bits of stuff from the multi-sync page that may or may not display correctly if they're mismatched because of expectations from the JSONs and stuff like that. But even those are very minor, so it's not a problem at all as long as they're supported versions. Like the latest versions of FPP, I don't think would recognize like well, I'm not even sure if it would find or recognize like FPP4 based controllers and stuff like that. So as long as they're like the 7.5 plus, you're pretty much okay.
So, next is do your Culps have inrush current protection for the first pixel?
As
Not
in,
sure. Yeah, I don't know what that means. Jake,
I
you
mean
want to ask your question and explain?
there is the resistor, the 33 ohm resistor that's on there. The eFuses do have extra capacitors on either side of the eFuse to smooth things out to avoid some of the tripping and stuff like that. But that's about it.
Okay. Keenan asks, ever thought about being able to read control the 5-volt power or the V5 power distro from a Culp controller, or adding a small sister board to an existing board? I think he's talking about the power of a V5 receiver, possibly. I'm thinking that's what
Well,
he's.
no, he does have a V5 distro board. I don't think you can read anything from that. It's just an on or off via GPIO trigger, if I remember correctly. I'd have to look at what he has. I mean, all of my new boards have GPIO pins that can be used to control external things such as the V5 distro board, because I believe it's just an on-off, or relays or something like that. One of the things that I did last year is I had these giant 30 amp solid state relays that I used the GPIO pins from my K32 to turn them on and off because I didn't have the eFuses on the 32. So that allowed me to turn the power off to the ports and stuff like that. So you can use the GPIOs for that. So like I said, I think his distro board is just an on off. I don't think there's anything to read from them, but
Yeah, okay.
I haven't looked at his distro boards for a while, but I think it's just two pins, just a ground and a signal that get jumpered over.
Yeah. Keenan also had a issue last night. Keenan, what was that on your K32, right? Was it K32 can you unmute in your issue from yesterday?
Yeah, sorry, I'm over at a restaurant right now, so hopefully you don't hear the background noise. So I had an issue with the DMX2 on the
Yep.
K32 Max.
All right. That
And Dan was able to send me a little EEPROM update that made
Oh,
it work,
good.
and it
Okay.
gets
I want to talk about that because that was an interesting topic. Basically, I had, and this comes down to, this also answers that testing question and stuff like that. So I've tested the DMX ports on both of those, on the Max and the Pros and stuff like that, way back, like when the boards were released and stuff like that. But they were based on the images for the Pocket Beagle that were available back in like February and March. Um, well, apparently the BeagleBoard folks changed the device tree such that the TTYS1 UART is listed as reserved. And I was asking them today why it's reserved, and they couldn't give me a good answer. They're still trying to figure out why it was changed to being reserved because nobody knows. But if it's reserved, then it can't be used by Linux. It can be used by the PRUs, but it can't be used by Linux. So when I updated to the newer version of the image to create FBP9, the actual 9 releases and stuff, it had picked up this new device tree, and I didn't even know this until you guys tested that. And it's something that I can fix in the device trees, but I'm also trying to figure out whether I have to fix it because technically I don't understand why it's reserved and why Linux can't use it. So this is again part of the having the good relationship with the BeagleBoard folks to kind of understand what's going on and have those conversations. It's an interesting topic that I'm still trying to research. I do have the EEPROM, so if anybody has an issue with the DMX2, I can send them a new EEPROM. But I'm also trying to make sure that for 9.2, whenever we get that, the base device tree that FPP puts in place for all controllers re-enables that or enables that port properly for Linux. Whether that whether that comes from the BeagleBoard folks marking it as not reserved, or we have to do that in our device tree and mark it not reserved. So we'll figure it out. But it's a interesting hardware
That was
issue.
Alex asks, most useful feature of eFuses is power shutting down to the ports. But given the price, is there any plans to just have a relay to achieve the same effect?
Yes, I actually was originally planning on doing that for the pro level. And the first board I had that did that, it put them you basically need to put to do the reverse polarity and to have that MOSFET type thing, you have to have them like really kind of close together. And having 8 ports of that generated too much heat, and it was almost getting to a point where the board was kind of getting way too hot, and I didn't feel safe with it, which is why to get the Pro out this year, I removed that. It is on my stuff to-do list to investigate more probably in January, February of next year, to see if I can relay things out. Because part of the problem, if you take a look at the 16, like the 32 Max and stuff like that, that reverse polarity stuff is on the bottom of the board. So when it generates the heat, it's all underneath the board. And so I need to really figure out how to adjust that so it's not generating so much heat and puts it more on the top where it has a chance to dissipate and stuff like that. So it's definitely something I was planning on doing, but I had to kind of in order to get the boards out this year in a way that I felt was safe, I had to pull it off. I don't want to be putting something out there that you folks out in Australia will have things melting down in December or whatever, because that would be really bad. So, safety first.
Mark asks, I don't quite understand it, but it says, what are the differences of the K16 Pro to AB? I know eFuse is on AB and Blades on Pro and 8 expansion ports uh, for
Well, obviously, the
differential.
big difference is Beagle and Black versus the new Pocket Beagle, like the new architecture, the new Pocket Beagle 2, stuff like that. I mean, the K16 is based on the Beagle and Black, so it's got the black mounted underneath. But other than that, it's got the audio, it's got so the FM transmitter stuff. The 16AB has the bidirectional ports. It's got the eFuse fuses, all that stuff. So like I said, it's basically the equivalent of what the 16 Max would be, other than only four differentials instead of eight. That said, the 16AB has the expansion port on it, so you can add another 16 via an expansion board if you wanted to. I mean, longer term, the 16AB will kind of go away as I transition everything over to the Pocket Beagle 2 stuff. But for right now, that is what I have. The kind of the equivalent for the Mac 16 Max.
Okay. Um, can you ask you, but yes, but you had gone over this, the fan on
Yep.
the Macs, can you set that temp or is it going to be different levels?
Um, if you're good with Linux scripting, you can set it. There are basically it's all controlled by Linux. Linux has these it's a PWM thing, and Linux device tree has ways to set triggers for various temperatures. I want to say there's default to 40, 50, and 60 degrees Celsius will be your low, medium, high trip points, but you can go into this sysfs, like the sys file system, and change those temperatures anything you want with a simple script. At some point, we may update FPP to allow some level control over them, but at this point, if they come on, they'll come on when it gets too hot. So.
On that same note, is there a danger point to not reach on a Colt board? Like the Pi says 85 Celsius, try to keep everything, below that.
It would probably be about the same 85 Celsius. The Here's an interesting note on the again, I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say. The Pocket Beagle 2 that may or may not have the EMCC. The reason why it's got a 64 EMMC is because that's the smallest size that's industrial temp. So that should tell you a little bit where they're going with that too.
Cool. Okay.
Uh, so the Pocket Beagle 2 with the EMMC will be fully industrial temp, which means 125 C. So so you can
Uh,
fry an egg if you want on it if you really want.
uh, Alex asks, to clarify on the K8 Pi, can it only do either 20 or 40 frames per
Yes.
second, or can it do either in betweens?
It actually will only do one. It's depending on what it boots up at. Like you can't it like if it detect it can do 40, that's what it's going to always do. Even if you use a 20 frame per second sequence, it's still going to be output at 40 frames per second. Now, it's okay because 20 and 40 are exact multiples, so that works well. Um, we could probably expand other options to have like 60 or 80. 80 would make sense because that would be another direct multiple of the 20s and 40s. But something like 100 would be like if you try to do a 40 frames per second when it's configured for 100, you'd have like the whole 3.2 pull down and stuff like that. So yeah, it's basically the display hardware has to have its clock set via device tree at boot up, and that will determine exactly what the output rate is going to be. And that's one of the reasons why the Pocket Beagle is a much better platform for outputting pixels than the Pi.
Oh, hang on there. Okay. That's all we have in the chat.
Cool.
Uh, Anything about the future of FPP or Culp or
Oh,
anything?
like I said, for me, the big thing is the new controller, the new platform for the controllers. I need to get those fleshed out over the next, again, year. It's going to take a while to get old inventory out and new board designs and stuff like that. And again, being a small vendor, I can't order a lot of stuff at once. So it's one design, sell some to get some money to do the next design and stuff like that. So it's just going to take time.
Yeah.
This year has been tough because the tariff situation has made me rush some things, and I messed some stuff up because I was rushing, like when uh, Trump announced the 90-day reprieve of the tariffs. You're like, okay, it takes about 70 days, 60 to 70 days to manufacture, so I need to get things ordered like now to get them shipped to me within that 90-day window, and so you're rushing to get these orders off and designs made and stuff like that. Uh, Only to come 90 days later to find out that it's extended for another 90 days or whatever, and you didn't have to rush and all that stuff. It's just been kind of an annoying year from all that kind of stuff going. So hopefully we can get back to some level of normalcy at some point and a little less stressful.
Alex asks, how about Wi-Fi receivers?
Yeah, it's called the K4.
Yeah, it's called a game. Um,
Well, I'm serious.
yeah.
There's a couple shows that have replaced all of their differential receivers with K4s because again, they had problems with Cat 5. And most of their issue was cheap labor, not understanding Cat 5 and plugging Cat 5 into the wrong places, and they have to go behind them and redo all that stuff like that. But uh, having Wi-Fi with a four-port controller that is mounted right to the back of the prop, they just kind of pull it off the truck. Apparently, cheap labor can understand 110-volt power, like just plug that into power, they can understand that. And have it work.
What about
So
Wi-Fi on the controllers instead of a separate dongle? Have it built into the board.
I thought about that. It's actually an interesting question. The issue there is I had a lot of problems getting the gigabit Ethernet working. My background is in chemical engineering. For those of you guys that don't know, I have a degree in chemical engineering, um, not electrical engineering. So understanding things like high-speed signals, impedance mismatching, all that stuff is kind of outside my area. My youngest son is planning on going to college for electrical engineering, and I keep telling him to get out of here quicker and go to college sooner because I need his help now. But he's not there yet. He's a senior in high school. But when you start dealing with things like Wi-Fi with RF, not only do you have high-speed signals, but you also have all of the RF signals and things like interference and things like that. It's so far beyond what I would have the skill set to really understand. I don't know how many, like it took me three prototypes just to get the gigabit Ethernet to actually work. Um, because the signals for gigabit are very are obviously much higher speed than your 100 megabit, which is a lot of the simple design, like you can go to GitHub and get simple designs for the 100 megabit stuff based on the ESB 32s and all that stuff. But gigabit's like a whole other level because it's much higher speed and things have to be matched properly. They have to have your ground planes have to be like
Yeah.
it's very hard. So doing Wi-Fi at the same time on the board beyond my skill level, to be honest. And the question is that would add $10 per board for a lot of people that don't do Wi-Fi. Like, are they willing to spend another $10 for something that you pretty much know they know they're not going to use?
Yeah.
I don't. Again, it's a lot of
Yeah, you
risk.
could take one of the USB ports and just have the Wi-Fi on there, but yeah.
Right. I mean the USB the Wi-Fi dongles that I have I know work really really well. They're designed well. I have a ton of them. I had to order thousands of them uh, just so they're here. And I know they work really well. I test them all the time because that's all I use. And I'd much rather have the USB port. Uh, and again, not have the like Wi-Fi signals right on the same board, but you have all these other like audio signals and stuff that cause
Okay.
interference and things like that.
Okay,
So,
cool.
so no, it's a
Um,
good question, and I thought about it, but it's just again, my skill set isn't there.
yeah. And a question on here says, what's the max pixels per port at 40 frames on a K32? I've
It's
heard
the normal
800 and
800.
some saying 700. It's 800, right?
It's 800. It does change with the RJ45 differentials if you put them in if you're using smart receivers. The smart receiver protocols will take some of those pixels. Wired Watts, if you go to Wired Watts page for their differential, to where they sell the SRX ones, they have this really great chart about how many pixels you lose depending on whether you use the V1 protocol, the V2 protocol, or the Falcon like V4 protocol, V5 protocol. One thing that's even where the 700 comes from is if you use the V5s with the bidirectional, um, it getting you basically have to have a gap for it to send the configuration and say, hey, like the command packet, and then you got to wait a little bit for the receiver to send the data back. So that does cut it down to about 700 pixels if you're using the V5s, which is why the Falcon V5 line, I think they say like 700 or 715 pixels per port, something like that. A lot of it's due to the protocol related to the V5 bidirectional communication stuff.
Okay.
And that said, with FPP and all my controllers, the onboard ports can still be 800 to some extent. Yeah, so
So Alex added a but to I guess the Wi-Fi. He says, what about a Raspberry Pi Pico RP2040 or similar FPP Lite with SD and multi-sync?
yeah, I'm not going there. No,
Why not?
yeah,
Way cheaper.
well, it's interesting because all of my boards now actually have an what's called a different processor from TI. It's an MSP M0. I can't remember all the other letters to it. So I mentioned that my boards don't have an EEPROM on them anymore. There's actually a processor on there that ends up emulating an EEPROM. And that processor is powerful enough to do various things like run pixels and stuff like that if I wanted it to. But that's not what its purpose is. So yeah, I've been investigating firmwares for different process like microcontrollers like the Pico and things like that. Like I said, the TI one's interesting to me. Um, because I'm already using like the 32 Max actually has two of them on there. Um, so because I needed the eFuses all require uh, another ADD like analog to digital channel to do the current monitoring. And that processor has 8 channels on ADD channels on it. So by using two of them, I can actually and some muxing and stuff, I was able to save a lot of money because analog to digital chips are expensive, but that little processor is cheap. So yeah, no, I was playing with them, but no, not something I really want to deal with as far as running pixels directly.
What's your view then on what was that protocol or that dongle or something that you and Pat were using to do like city type?
Laura.
Yeah,
Yes.
Laura, yes.
What do you where do you see that going? Is there anything in the hobby or something that will come to fruition, be
I
useful?
have honestly no idea. It's actually the history on my involvement with that was way back in Florida Mega Mini back in 2019, because of pre-COVID. So Sean uh, came up to and that's what Sean was still involved and stuff like that. And he came up to me and had mentioned somebody had mentioned like to him somebody he would talk to was the LoRa stuff had just come out and he's like, wouldn't it be great if we could do multi-sync via these LoRa things that go miles and stuff like that? I'm like. And I'm like, yeah, it'd be interesting. I have never heard of them. I have to go home and research whatever. And like, I got home, I kind of forgot about it for 3 days, and then suddenly there was a package on my front porch with these LoRa stuff that Sean had shipped to me from wherever. Um, and so that's when I started playing with them, and I wrote the plugin that actually did the multi-sync via LoRa and stuff. And obviously, I updated a lot this year to use the more modern USB based dongles rather than the TTY versions that I had that Sean sent me years ago and stuff like that. But I don't know. It's one of those things it's there. There's a plugin that's there. There's a few people that are using it, so I know it kind of works. I don't know. There's definitely some value to it. But I don't. know enough about where it's being used or how it's being used or anything like that. So, I think I have.
I tried to test it, and I got, I had a LoRa master in the living room, and then I put a little Pi Zero with the LoRa dongle, and then a little Pixel Star on it, and started driving around the neighborhood. But I only got halfway down the block before the sync stopped. So a lot of it's very much environmental, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to have that LoRa transmitter. Either I had it taped to the window of the house, right?
Okay.
So you either need to have it outside and high up, and then
Yeah.
you can't have a lot of, I didn't do a ton of testing with it, but I barely got down the end of the street and it stopped.
Yeah, there are certain settings too. Like you can slow it down to give it more range, but then you have obviously it's slower. And but the other big thing about it is it's so slow that you can't upload sequences via it. So you still need the Wi-Fi or some way to upload sequences. And for a lot of cases where they load, I know a couple of shows they again like with the sticking the K4s on the back of the props. They load all of those in July or August and September. They're actually doing that now. They're loading all the sequences on those now, so that when they pull them off the truck and plug them in, they're all ready to go, and there's nothing that needs to be done. So in that case, Laura's fine because like what they need is already on there. Because you're not going to transfer sequences via it's way too it's basically 90s dial up or 80s dial up type speed. So it's really really bad. It's interesting technology. I just don't know where it's going.
And I think that's it, Dan. Okay. There's those who want to, yeah, like neighborhood shows.
Yeah.
That'd be an option. There is a few people that come in a Zoom room that do. One guy does, I think it's 8 houses on his street, and he has cat cables and Wi-Fi repeaters and things everywhere and down the street.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean Wi-Fi if you're in control of the entire show, then Wi-Fi works kind of better because you can deploy new sequences and stuff like when xLights Around the World comes out and you need to upload that to the entire block, then Wi-Fi would definitely work better. But if it's something that you're setting things up way ahead of time and you're just gonna let it go, then it would be fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, thanks, Dan. This was good.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, I mean, if again, I can hang around for a little bit longer if anybody has
Yeah, I have a
questions.
question when we stop recording.
Yeah, if for FPP related or xLights related or anything like that, I mean, I can definitely hang around for a little bit longer.
All right, I'm going to stop recording now. Thanks again.